Governor Moore, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
We're in a tumultuous time in the stock market, and a lot of viewers are watching their 401k balances. They're very concerned. And I'm curious about your thoughts on this market turmoil and what it means for retirement savers in your state.
Well, a big thing that we've got to focus on is diversification. And diversification of your assets and making sure that, yes, we understand that retirement savings is a very big deal for our people. It's the reason we've done things like, Maryland Saves, and making sure that we actually have pathways for our private sector partners to now be in partnership with the state government. We now have over 5,000 businesses that are signed up with Maryland Saved, over, I think over 13,000 Marylanders who are now getting their retirement through Maryland Saves. But we also have to focus on ownership of all fronts. And that includes things like supporting your entrepreneurs, supporting your small businesses, helping your businesses to grow and scale. It means making more people homeowners. It's the reason we've had such an aggressive push on home ownership, because it is such a valuable asset that people now have. The number one driver of wealth, home ownership. The number one driver of poverty, housing insecurity. So we have to be able to make sure that people have diversified assets to be able to ensure that they can age in place and age in dignity.
So not just in the stock market, but looking at assets elsewhere, yet there's so much uncertainty in terms of what is happening out of Washington in terms of economic policies, and so much uncertainty with individual investors about their own financial futures.
Yes.
What do you think can be done about that? How are you supporting people in Maryland?
Well, in Maryland, we've been very clear that we are going to support our people, and to include our federal workers. And we are uniquely disposed to this, because there are over 160,000 federal employees who call the state of Maryland home, 23,000 military veterans who are also federal employees that call the state of Maryland home. So these are not glancing blows to Maryland's economy. These are direct shots that are happening to our state. And so we've launched a whole series of initiatives to include pipelining people into available and necessary state jobs. It includes things like working with the private sector and ensuring that people have pathways to private sector employment and private sector supports if that's what they need. We have an enhanced unemployment insurance platform that we now have for our federal workers. So we're making sure that we're leading, we're being creative, and we're being thoughtful to make sure that we are leaving no one behind and taking care of all of our people. But we also need for a sense of certainty to reign again within what's happening. No one can defend the status quo of the system we had before. The status quo system was not working for people. But there is a difference between disruption and destruction. And that's the thing I think we need for our leaders in Washington to understand, that measure of predictability does become important, not just for investors, but also for families.
Mm-hmm. As the governor of Maryland, you've been very focused on rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse in your state. How have you done it, and how do you think the federal government could be doing it differently, if you think it should be done differently?
Well, one of our top priorities is having an efficient government that meets people where they are. This is the third year in a row we've actually released our state budget that's actually smaller. Our general fund is smaller than the year before. So we've decreased the size of state government and increased its efficiency. One of the first hires I made was a chief performance officer, whose job it is to literally go and find waste, fraud, and abuse and make things more efficient for our state. And that includes everything from fleet consolidation to IT management, to how we're looking at the real estate in our balance sheets, to how we're doing procurement reform and ensuring that the billions of dollars that the state of Maryland is spending is being used on Maryland businesses. And so we're really rethinking so many different aspects of our state economy and of our state budgets to ensure that every single dollar is going to be used wisely, every single dollar is accountable, and that we are not going to have a measurement of bloat and then think that the way you're going to deal with it is by, frankly, some erratic changes that leaves very real human consequences.
Have you been doing it by executive order? Have you been doing it with a team approach? Have you been using data? How have you been figuring out where to make these cuts?
A lot of it is all the above. I mean, there's certain things that we can do via executive order. The creation of a platform like our chief performance officer, that was something I said I have the executive authority to do that, so I'm just going to do it. But all of it is being done in partnership with our local jurisdictions, with our private sector, with labor, making sure that people understand the direction that we're going to and what is the unique role that everyone can play in order to help us get there. And we're going to continue doing that, using every tool at our disposal to make sure that we have the most efficient and the most connected state government possible.
You talked about 160,000 workers in Maryland being federal workers. The cuts that we're seeing, the spending cuts that we're seeing that are impacting businesses in Maryland as well. Yeah. What economic impact is that having on your state?
It's having a massive economic impact. And it's having a massive economic impact, both because we are watching people in many cases just arbitrarily laid off, agencies being shuttered without any demonstrable evidence as to how that actually is serving the people better. But in addition to that, it's having income on income tax levels. It's having income on, now these are small businesses that were relying on these workers that no longer have these workers to be able to rely on. So there is that trickle down impact of what it's going to mean for our larger economy. And it's just driving tremendous amounts of uncertainty inside of our economic engine. The on again, off again tariffs and the numbers that move every other day seemingly as to what product we're going to put a tariff on and what number you're going to put it on. Like, this is having a significant impact even just on the psyche of investors, the psyche of business owners, the psyche of our society and our community who are wondering if they're going to be next. And so this is the type of thing that we've got to be able to avoid, that I am all about efficiency. And I'm all about making sure that you can have a government that better matches the hopes and the aspirations of the people. But there's a smart way to do this. And hopefully in partnership is the way that we can get to the right answer on it.
Let's talk about retirement security just briefly, because the impact that it's having, you said, on people in terms of their income taxes, in terms of their wages because their jobs have been cut, are significant, but on their retirement security, on their financial future, yes. What is the impact?
It's really sad because you have people who in many cases have worked their entire life for a promise, right? And that promise is that they're going to have the ability to be able to age in place and age in dignity. And there's a lot that the state can do. There's a lot that we're doing right now when it comes to senior care. There's a lot that we're doing when it comes to incentivizing housing developments that can actually support that actually do a better job of supporting older adults in assisted living facilities and all this kind of stuff that's happening and we're doing. But we also know that we are watching promises being broken. We're watching promises being broken when you're talking about how you're going to arbitrarily look at ways you're adjusting Medicaid and Medicare and other things that we know that people have worked into and relied on, Social Security that people have paid into for their entire life. And so people are fine with having conversations about what do we all need to do. What they're not fine with is feeling like they have now become pawns in a much bigger chess game, and where they feel like the work that they have done, the contributions that they have made, in many cases for decades, is now not being honored, not being respected, and is being overlooked. And so I think we've got to find a better way of doing this, and particularly a way of being able to honor those who have devoted their entire life and put their entire life into a system that they assumed would be there for them.
And the last thing is in terms of what Maryland is doing to help people now with their retirement security. Maybe you will see a pullback in people, in the businesses contributing to Maryland Saves and people contributing. But what are you hoping happens that you're able to do for Maryland residents?
Yeah, we're hoping that more and more people sign up for Maryland Saves. I mean, it takes 30 minutes for our private sector partners to be able to get themselves enrolled and involved, and it's to no cost to them. That it's the state that's helping to serve essentially as the underwriter for it, and it is serving and has the potential of serving tens of thousands of Marylanders to be particularly low and moderate income Marylanders who that is the best way for them to get some type of retirement fund. We're also hoping that we can get people with more assets that they can lean on and rely on. And that means supporting our small businesses and supporting our entrepreneurs, which is the backbone of Maryland's economy, are our small and moderate-sized businesses. It means making more people homeowners. And that's why we've had such a push on increasing inventory and pathways, providing supports for down payments. These are things we think are really important because the more people can own, the more they have that they can pass off to their children besides debt. Right? The better opportunity that we are going to have an economically growing economy and one that is a participatory economy.
Yeah, and how difficult is this going to be, though, with the budget deficit challenges that the state faces?
I mean, it's going to be challenging, but these are all things that are manageable. We just need to make smart choices.
I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.
This is my joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.